not about Michael Bunting not scoring, although he hasn't scored. It's about his role and how he hasn't fulfilled it to date. Good morning to you. Good Tuesday morning. I'm Dejan Kovacevic of DK Pittsburgh Sports. This is Daily Shot of Penguins. It comes your way bright and early every weekday if you're into football and or baseball. I also offer daily shots of Steelers and Pirates in the same place that you found this. Penguins versus Flames tonight in Calgary, Alberta. That's a 9:38 p.m. Eastern Time face-off. I'm expecting Bunting to be back in the lineup after being a somewhat surprising healthy scratch over the weekend in Winnipeg. And the reason I'm expecting that is that he's a good hockey player. He's not a fringe forward on this roster. He is, rather, someone you would sit in the press box for a game to send a rather strong message. And in this specific case, it wouldn't be that Bunting's currently got, through 6 games played, 0 goals and 1 assist, even though he's been on a line with 2 guys that have started off the season pretty hot, in Evgeny Malkin and Ricard Raquel. Nope. The issue is that, well, think about this. Let's go back to the Jake Gensel trade, which, if you've been listening to this show for a while, you might recall that I wasn't exactly nuts about. In fact, I really didn't like it. But it was Bunting, the immediate acquisition, who began to turn me around on it. Because he looked like a lot of things that the Penguins are missing. He was cutting through the slot diagonally. He was knifing his way into hard areas, to borrow a Mike Sullivanism. And in doing so, he was creating all kinds of space, in particular for Gino. They made a really nice pairing, if you want to call it that. And along the way, he scored some big goals in that push to get into the playoffs. Made a lot of other things happen, and just generally impressed. This episode is brought to you by Bet Online, your number one source for all your summer sports needs this season, from Major League Baseball, golf, NHL, NBA playoffs. Get the latest odds and lines, including all team matchups, player props, odds on just about everything that's out there. Head to the website today or use your mobile device to get in on the action. Bet Online, where the game starts. Now, fast forward to the start of this season, and you might have gotten a little bit swayed by seeing him get a lot of chances, and he did, and he got robbed on some of those chances in the first couple of games this season. But what you have to ask yourself is, where was he shooting the puck from? And if you start going through it in your mind's eye, you're probably going to place him back at the face-off dots at the closest, top of the circle maybe, and then you're going to uncover what the actual point of criticism is. He's not that player. He needs to be the player that he was when he got here from Raleigh. Bunting was interviewed yesterday after practice in Calgary by Taylor Haas of DK Pittsburgh Sports. This is some of what he had to say on being scratched.
Yeah, there's nothing really I can do other than obviously accept it and know what I need to do better and what I need to do to help this team win, and that's the main goal. And I mean, like, it's easy to feel sorry for yourself, but that's something that I made sure I didn't do. I used it as fuel, and whenever I'm ready to go again, and if that's the next game or the game after, whenever I'm back in the lineup, I'm ready. I know what I need to do. I'm playing my game, and yeah, I'm confident in my ability, and those kind of things happen in pro sports, and you just got to take it and bounce back even better.
Good dude. Good competitor, too. Not somebody who's easy to get mad at, in other words. But when you hear team leaders, notably Lars Eller, talk about how each guy has a role to fill for all of this to work, that applies to each individual line as well. And for as much as I've been talking in recent weeks about the need for the Penguins to do a lot of crisscrossing and slicing through the box on the power play, that also has to happen at 5-on-5. And Bunting, listen, it's not a real long list of guys on this roster who are either willing or able to do it. He's one of them, and he can't remove himself from that list. That doesn't mean that he needs to be Patrick Hornqvist. I was the one squirming a few months ago when some of the fan base started referring to him in that way. There's one Hornqvist, okay? There's one. But he can do a lot more of that sort of thing than he's done. And you know what? He's not the only one who can. And maybe, just maybe, the message that Sullivan's sending there isn't solely aimed at Bunting. When we come back, J1Q. Today's J1Q comes from Mike, who says, DK, although the NHL's advanced metrics are imperfect, the Penguins are once again top 10-ish in Corsi 4 and expected goals 4. But the team's record does not reflect this. This has happened so many seasons in a row now that it must be a trend. What's being missed by these metrics? My head goes to little net front traffic on offense and maybe losing some super high danger chances that don't get tracked, given the crazy number of breakaways and odd man rushes on the other end. What's your take? I have a lot I could say about hockey's advanced metrics because they're anything but advanced, because the data is not advanced and the data won't be advanced. And even those who obsess with this sort of stuff will acknowledge this in a weak moment until there's puck tracking, until they can tell exactly where the puck is on the ice, who has it, when they have it, and what they do with it. Then you're going to have metrics. Then you're going to be able to have quality touches like they do in soccer metrics. You don't have that in the NHL right now. At least you don't have it in any publicly accessible way, because this league is so backward that even though they have these stats, they don't share them with people, even though it might heighten the interest in the game. So now that I have that out of the way, this subject matter is the same as the subject matter I just brought up in the opening to this episode. Your guess here that it'd be about net front presence is dead on. To my eyeballs in covering this team, I still see way too many unscreened longer range shots. I see way too many defensemen, in particular, opposing defensemen, who can just plant themselves like redwood trees and not have the need to move because they never get sent side to side. Why? Because nobody's cutting through. Nobody makes them move. Nobody disturbs their peace. And as a result, the saves become easy. Unless you're Ville Husso in Detroit, who got victimized in all kinds of shots that the Penguins took, you're going to be a goaltender who says, all right, man, Pittsburgh, yeah, this is going to be an easy one. Even if they lose, it's going to be an easy game for that goaltender from the standpoint that he doesn't have to work nearly as hard. He's not going to get bumped. He's not going to get moved a lot left to right. And this doesn't come with the Patrick Hornqvist cure. It just doesn't. But when Jim Rutherford took over as general manager, and Jim looked at film of the Penguins' recent performances before he had come on board, in particular, the Eastern Conference Final against the Bruins, when the Penguins had that ridiculously loaded lineup, but they would never cut through the Boston box. And to the Bruins' credit, they did a great job of keeping them out, but you still got to force the issue. You still got to find a way. And they didn't. That was when Jim said, I need to get Hornqvist from Nashville, and I'm going to give up whatever it takes. And he ended up giving up a 40-goal scorer, a trade that was absolutely savaged by the advanced analytics community. How can you do that? Neil controls the puck at such and such rate, and they had no idea. They still wouldn't have any idea because all of the advanced analytics are based on shot attempts. It's their only way of being able to, quote unquote, track the puck. And it's nowhere near good enough. Neil is not half the player that Hornqvist is in terms of reassessing their careers in hindsight. In fact, little known thing here, but Hornqvist outscored Neil after that trade. Hornqvist was a better scorer than Neal. And he was that in large part because he was doing these things that you and I are talking about right now that can't be quantified. They can't be Corsied. I hope that someday they can be, but they aren't yet. I appreciate the question. Outstanding. I appreciate everybody listening to Daily Shot of Penguins, and we're going to do another one of these tomorrow.